What is your quest?
To seek the Holy Grail. I know this one. And maybe play some role-playing games along the way.
Associate Professor Brian Arnold is Academic Program Director for the Master of Science in Educational and Instructional Technology in the Sanford College of Education at National University. Formerly the Academic Program Director for the BA in Film Arts and Digital Media Design programs, Brian has a long history of working, teaching, learning, researching at the intersection of education and the media arts. Currently a doctoral candidate through Michigan State University's Educational Psychology and Educational Technology program. His career highlights include working as an editor for Nickelodeon Animation Studios and running video game-related undergraduate programs. Brian is co-author of 2 books: the Cal TPA Handbook, Unpacking Equitable Practices in the California Teaching Performance Assessment, published by Great River Learning, and Exploring Visual Storytelling, the Art of Turning Good Ideas into Compelling Stories by Cengage Learning.
Tell us about yourself.
Well, succinctly, I'm a husband, father, academic, gamer, wordplay enthusiast, hiker, and mediocre woodworker. I am the Academic Program Director for the MS in Educational and Instructional Technology. I've been in that role for about a year, and I've been in similar roles since about 2002. I'm responsible for the relevancy, accuracy, and engaging quality of the program curriculum. I need to make sure that qualified and awesome rock star professionals are teaching each and every course. And I'm there to offer resources to the learners who stumble on their road to success.
So how did you end up here at National University, and what were you doing before you came here?
So I grew up in Chino, California in the Inland Empire. It's known for dairies, World War II aircraft museums, and prisons. From there, I went to an undergraduate literature degree in the Los Angeles area. Then I got my master's from USC Film School. Worked a bunch of odd jobs. I delivered newspapers, sold yogurt, worked in movie theater, washed buses, all that kind of fun stuff. After I got my master's degree, I ended up, like I said, at the movie theater job, right? Putting that movie degree to work. After working for about 5 years at Nickelodeon Animation Studios as an editor, we went back to Minnesota, where I really began my academic career. And that was teaching in the animation department at a small for-profit college back there in Minnesota. At the time, they were just starting to offer online classes, and I thought that seemed like a really promising trend. So I sort of finagled my way into becoming their director of online courses back in 2002. And that was a very rewarding experience. And I got to really sort of watch a lot of that evolve in many ways. Then there was an opportunity to be kind of the equivalent of the job I do now, an academic program director, but they called it something else, for their advertising program. And I took a jump at that. And then my wife and I decided, you know what? We could continue enjoying Minnesota, or we could continue enjoying California again. So we did. And I moved back, and I was the dean of a small media college in sort of the Hollywood area for a while. And that, where I oversaw programs, graphic design, set design, stage design, game design, all kinds of stuff like that, the media arts type things. And at a certain point, their philosophy of education and mine no longer aligned, and I moved on, and they've since moved on entirely as well.
As a program director, how does that work for you as far as working with hiring adjuncts, figuring that part out of your job?
One of the things that's actually really rewarding about the job is, in the role of program director, it's my job to set the tone, the standards, the goals for the program by carefully considering what that field needs from its graduates. But once I've set that tone, once I've just decided, okay, this is what it is that we're going to do, I can find these people who have subject matter expertise far in excess of my own in specific areas and bring them in and let the students experience this wide variety of voices, each with their own distinctive sharp edge of skills. One of the great pleasures of working with the MSEIT program faculty is they tend to be very well skilled in pedagogy, andragogy, in their field, and in the use of the distance learning platforms that we use. So they hit the ground running, and they're like IT instructor, subject matter, they're just like ninjas ready to take on whatever comes their way. So it's a real pleasure to find those folks and to get them in front of the students so the students have a well-rounded experience and are able to specialize in the areas that they find interesting with people who have deeper knowledge in those particular areas. When you get to a certain point in your career, it's hard not to make your set of experiences look like a handful of disjointed gummy bears, like, oh, I did this, then I did that, and I did this. But if there is a through line from the media arts to the education side, it's that engaging an audience so that you're clearly communicating with them in a compelling way that changes perhaps the way they see things or consider things. That's definitely a through line that works its way through all the different areas that I have explored. I'd like to do research that lives at the intersection of play, of engagement, of learning, technology, participation. Essentially, it's all around the philosophy that, if someone pays attention, they might learn. If they don't pay attention, they definitely won't. So it's not like if you pay attention, you'll absolutely learn, but the corollary is worse. So anything that I can do in my research to find ways to hold someone's authentic attention and engage them in a way that can lead to learning, I feel is a benefit to education, and it's interesting to me. In the same way that I find it interesting to engage an audience with a story.
You're close to completing your doctoral degree, so tell us your research interests and why you kind of went in that direction.
Along the lines there, I started thinking about the fact that while I did have my MFA from USC Film School, I really wanted to move over into the ed tech side of things. So I started working on my PhD in educational technology and educational psychology through Michigan State University. And I saw an opportunity to move over to the College of Education, which I took. And after a bit, I was able to take on my current role, which is the program director for the MSEIT program. And hopefully, very, very soon, I'll be getting my PhD as well.
So how will it feel for you when you finally complete your dissertation?
It will feel like there's a scene in The Big Bang Theory, gonna go pop culture reference, where one of the heads comes in and all the four guys are standing there and they say, Dr. Koothrappali, Dr. Cooper, Mr. Wolowitz. And so I will cease being Mr. Wolowitz and finally be Dr. Arnold, which will be nice in its own way. What I like to say is, it's important to me that I'm turned down on the quality of my ideas, not because of my credentials. So hopefully that will be the next step for me. I like to provide resources and boundaries, but I don't want to micromanage the process. I want to keep the person in their lane and give them what they need to succeed and tell them, hey, you're heading in a way that's probably not going to be as effective as another way. But I really steer clear of micromanaging that process. So I guess as a mentor, I like to see those aha moments. I like to see my stakeholders feel value and engagement and ownership of whatever process they're engaged in, and that I'm there for them, but I'm not there with them, if that makes sense.
Did you have any life-changing experiences that put you on the path doing what you're doing today?
I guess the biggest sort of personal share in that area would be around the age of 28. I got AML leukemia, which I don't recommend. It's not fun. And that took a few years to get past. Here I am 20 years later. It's all good. And there's sort of this idea that when you survive something like that you have this deep insight, you find meaning. It's just left me appreciating that, any day you can go about your normal stuff is a good day. And I appreciate that. And I really do try to make the most of whatever time I have. So if that's an experience that's shaped who I am, it's, well, am I spending my time in a meaningful and productive way, or am I wasting it? And probably shouldn't waste it, so that helps. Fear of death is a really great motivator. So if you can motivate yourself without it, it's probably better. But that would definitely be an experience that kept me on the path to keep pushing myself, to keep growing, to continue seeking leadership opportunities, to continue my schooling, all of those things to make the most of the time that I have.
What would you say you are most excited about or passionate about with your work?
I think with the program, I'm very excited to foster a culture that views technology as a tool. It's neither good, it's not bad, it's no more ominous or valuable than a pencil or a shovel. A computer is just another tool. It's another way of doing things, that there are the right times to apply it and there are the wrong times, and not everything gets better when you rub internet on it. But a lot of things do work, and that it's not sinister. It's just yet another way of delivering education, another way of experiencing education. And I like being able to support students in their discovery of that process and help them to calibrate their expectations. That it's not that, there are some people at one end, this technology, it's not real teaching, it's horrible. And at the other end, oh my gosh, everything's better if you just put it on a computer. I'm like, well, it depends, and here's how we can really pull that apart and decide whether it's a good fit or not. And I feel like that slightly more sophisticated conversation is very beneficial to education and the future of where we're going with all of this.
You mentioned that you edited for Nickelodeon. What was your part in it? What did you enjoy the most about being on a team of animators?
So rewinding back to finishing my master's degree at USC, working in a movie theater, which was really the dream. And I was good with computers. I liked them back then. And I found out through a mutual friend there was an editing job, and I pretended I knew what I was doing. And I landed as an animatic editor. An animatic is sort of a video storyboard. I'm not going to get too far into it. You can Google it. And so I started doing that for a show. It turns out so my name is Brian Arnold. The show was Hey Arnold. And they were very excited to have someone with Arnold in their name on the show. That was my massive qualification for the job. So I got in with those folks. It was like second season of Hey Arnold, doing animatic editing for them. And it was one of those gigs where you sort of belonged to a show, but anyone who needed editing would, you were sort of a pool of editors. So while I was there, I ended up doing animatics for other shows, SpongeBob, Cat Dog, Invader Zim, Angry Beavers. Some people are like, that was my childhood. Other people are saying, what are these strange words? So a lot of the different shows, I got into some sheet timing, which you can Google. I was in the audio recording studio as like a 25th level down engineer for like 6 months. Whatever was going on, I was interested in what I could learn. And so whenever I was done with whatever I was doing, I would wander around the studio and just sort of like, hey, what are you doing? How does that work? And just kind of pick up a lot of things. And that actually helped a lot. I know we're talking about the shows, but when the need for exactly what I was doing ended, they could roll me into something else because I've been bugging everyone and learning different things. So I had a 5-year run there, which is actually pretty long at the time for any particular job within the studio, because I could roll from one thing to another. And then at the time they went from like 200 people to 8, and I was not one of those. So that was sort of ended that process. Sort of the idea that an animation studio is a bunch of people running around and hitting each other in the head with mallets and goofing around. It's a rather sober endeavor. There's a cubicle farm. It's really cool and quirky with, little figurines and all the sort of nerd paraphernalia, but it's still, people have to do this very labor intensive, thoughtful planning to get the animation to work.
How has pursuing an advanced degree while you're teaching, while you're leading a program, how have you been able to manage that?
One of the tricks to an effective work-life balance is not to have a life, but the reality is when I know that I'm engaged in this, I think to myself, if it gets difficult, well, if a student came to me and said, whatever it is I'm thinking, what would I be thinking? I'm like, well, you could try a little harder. So I definitely work harder, and it's definitely renewed my sense of empathy for the student experience, because for all intents and purposes, I'm running a master's program, which is grad school, and I'm in grad school. So it's not so far from my lived experience what it is that they're going through right now. So that empathy piece, I think, is really big, and definitely understanding that, especially working with adults, that they don't need me to teach them time management. They need my help getting to their goals in the same way that I'm interested in achieving mine. So it's definitely a fresh perspective. Teaching can sometimes shape your perspective into one of hyper assessment. And I think being a student helps me stay grounded in the big picture of why people are pursuing their degrees and what it is that they get out of those degrees to begin with. Since then, whenever kids will ask, oh, you worked at Nickelodeon? That's great. And then they'll want to know if I draw. And I'll say, no, I don't draw. And they just walk away. That's the end of the story. They don't care anymore.
What might someone be surprised to learn about you?
I seem to have the preternatural ability to decipher vanity plates on the back of cars. For some reason, I get there. I am very bad at meeting famous people. So I've done it a number of times, and the cliche is someone gets overexcited, right? So I play it so cool, and I treat them so matter-of-fact normally, it's just as awkward as if I had made a complete buffoon of myself. So this has happened a handful of times, and it's one of my skills, is that I'm just really bad at that.
I think it would be safe for me to say that your work has been instrumental in developing the innovation and the way this program has evolved to what it was initially, and now you've weaved in a lot of your research and the extra work that you've put in have made this program really quite different than I think that someone maybe even 5 years ago would have taken the program.
Right, and I appreciate you saying that, and I think that's what's necessary, because while education doesn't change a ton, the way education is consumed, the way education is created and delivered has been evolving rapidly for the last however long, and especially over the last few years. So keeping things fresh and innovative and up to date with what's going on is really important, and it felt like the right move for our students and for our institution.